Podcast. If you're ready to grow, then let's go. This is the Lincoln County Podcast. Hey, yo, Matt, let's start the show.
Thank you to our sponsors, K. Flynn Insurance, elect Bruce Becker for the Lincoln County Fire Board, and the Crafty Midwestern Mommy for their continued support of the Lincoln County Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the Lincoln County Podcast. Again, as always, super excited to be here today. It's sitting down with my guest. Thank you guys for liking, sharing, and subscribing, and for following our sponsors. Our sponsors are what make this happen, and I appreciate the fact you guys support them so much and use their products, because using them then helps us produce more great content. So I'm going to jump right in today with my guest. I'm going to turn it over to him to introduce himself, and we're going to see what we learned today. How's it going?
Real good. Appreciate you having me on here. I've done a few podcasts. I actually used to run a podcast called the 573. We basically did education stuff for getting people into hunting and stuff like that.
Oh, neat.
And that's kind of where I got introduced to the land space. So I'm Travis Owen. I work with High Point Land Company. We help people buy and sell farms. I actually grew up on a farm, and my family has a century farm in Lincoln County, out by Millwood. So that just means that we've owned the ground for over 100 years.
That's what I was going to ask. That's really cool. That's neat.
Yep. So, and it's really a cool way to live. I see more value in, the struggle that people have with, if you're letting loose of a century farm, man, there's more to it than just, signing a contract and letting it go. I mean, that's people's family history.
Oh, it's a heritage.
Yeah, it's their
so
legacy.
much tied up.
So that's really where High Point Land Company brings a little bit more value, I feel like, because most of the agents, we've got 40 agents, so we're a mid-sized company, but we all are, get tied back to the land somehow. But as far as when I got introduced to the space, I really didn't know that selling land was a job. And I was a pipe fitter for years.
Okay.
I worked at clay mines. My family's been blue collar and working on farms and all sorts of stuff for forever. But I had that podcast, and we had a gentleman by the name of Luke Mitchell on. He had just shot a mule deer out in New Mexico, and he's just kind of telling his tale. Afterwards, he used to film for Trained Assassins and AVNX and all sorts of other hunting shows on like the Pursuit Channel and stuff like that. And he said, on air, he's like, hey, anybody wants to get into filming hunts and hunting shows, I'll help them out. So afterwards, I was like, man, that sounds like a pretty cool gig,
Yeah.
And he said, well, it is, but you're on the road all the time, and if you're a family man, it's not for you.
That's gotta be, it's gotta be hard.
He said you're gone 6 months out of the year working 12-hour days. Granted, you're not turning wrenches, you're not welding or something like that, but they're really long days. And he's like, just from the conversation that we've had, he said, enough about hunting and farming and land. He's like, why don't you just come sell farms with me? And I was like, well, I guess because I didn't realize that was a job.
Yeah.
So he got me into, I dropped pretty much everything I was doing as far as hobbies and stuff like that. Got my license, and then he was leaving a company, going to High Point. He said, listen, this place is the cat's meow. It's just a winning team, and they really care about what they're doing. And I was like, yeah, I'm all in. And so the rest is history. I like where we're going, and I feel like we've got a really good mission statement. So
that's awesome. Yeah, when you said that about like selling land specifically, it was a couple years back that I realized that was its own niche in the real estate environment.
Yep.
I just thought you just call a regular realtor, or they would, somebody would call them to sell a farm or a big piece of land.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that was really a specific thing.
Right.
And I mean, it makes complete sense though that it would be. It was just something I had never looked at that way.
Absolutely. And
so
sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I'm in the same boat with you. I just, most of the transactions that I ever saw growing up was just farmer to farmer.
Yes.
Handshake deal, handwritten contract, and then you go on your way, and just life's changing really rapidly, and the internet and everything has just tied everybody in so much that sometimes you're not necessarily selling it to the next door neighbor. Most of the time we still are, but sometimes I'm selling it to, you know, a guy in Louisiana that wants to hunt 180, 190 inch whitetail, and they just don't have them down there. So it's really cool, the people you meet, and whenever you get somebody their dream farm, it's like, you know, that's,
I bet
that's where it's at, you know.
I bet that would make complete sense too. And with having the hunting background and stuff and understanding the land would be a really big asset to somebody that's looking for it for that purpose.
Right.
They're wanting it for a specific reason to use it, and being able to reach out to someone that's their specific thing.
Yep.
You know, you're not just calling Bonnie the realtor, you know, and wanting, being like, I want a farm.
Right.
They got to find a farm.
And each farm, you know, needs to be presented correctly. So, I mean, I've sold rice ground. I've sold, you know, just regular tillable ground up here. We grow corn and soybeans 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And then there's the recreational standpoint, which, you know, you're either showing off, you know, the ducks or the geese or the deer or turkeys that's on the place, and you have to present them the right way, which, you know, as I said before, you know, Luke Mitchell, him and several other of our agents, we're film producers for TV. So a lot of the stuff we do is TV quality stuff.
Yeah.
And one thing we've started doing, but it's basically a documentary, a small documentary, 5 or 10 minutes, about the farms that we're doing.
Oh, cool.
We're starting to do that in-house, but we contract to third-party contractors for those. But it's, man, you watch these videos and it's just like, it's hard to not tear up, you know, because they're letting loose of their family legacy.
Yeah, I could see that. And having something to document that and putting that emotion behind it would obviously help move that property too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing, like, there's a lot of people that, it's on the market, they sell it, and they're gone. That's another thing that we help people through. We don't give tax advice, but we help navigate that. If we can foresee that there's going to be a problem, let's say a guy owns 3 farms and he has already sold 2 for the year, you know, and they're all 3 selling to the same party. Well, if he's in a different tax bracket, or he will be if he sells that 3rd farm, you know, we can do a contract for deed or do a lease to purchase option to where we can kick that can down the road another 366 days, and then his tax basis isn't as high. And letting people know that, you know, whenever you inherit a property, you know, you have a year to relinquish it, basically at no capital gains, as long as it's, you know, or doing a backdated appraisal. So let's say, you know, your dad owned the farm and 5 years ago he left it to you. Well, he bought it for $500 an acre. So everything over $500 an acre is subject to capital gains tax.
Oh, yeah.
Which is 21.5%, I believe, right now. Yeah. And short-term capital gains tax is almost, it's over 40, I believe, right now.
Wow.
So it's not a small amount of money we're dealing with. And so whenever you do like a backdated appraisal or something like that, you're basically appraising it as the market was on the date you inherited it. That can save you. I mean, a lot of these farms people bought for $50 or $100 an acre.
Yeah, no, and you got to think of the grandson or something that maybe is inheriting it, right, has no clue. Say they're regular blue collar guy like the rest of us, and all of a sudden they're inheriting 200 acres. Like, right, that's a big thing. And having someone that can help navigate the taxes and the information and, you know, how that process is going to work. I've looked into that a little recently with my father, and it's not a farm or anything, which is a regular house.
Right.
As his age gets up there, like, what's this going to look like for me? Because his house isn't paid for.
Right.
None of it's paid off. There's not like some big insurance policy that's going to pay it off. But I know that when he passes, it's all going to get dumped on my lap. He's got people that live there with him now that I know aren't going to leave. They're under the assumption that when he dies, it's just paid for.
Right.
And I'm like, nope, that's actually not how this works. But I did start kind of looking into it a little bit because I was like, okay, what do I do with the property? It needs a ton of work. So do I want to have like a home flipper remodeler guy lined up, which actually I do. A gentleman we're friends with just redid a house 2 doors up, similar situation. It was a friend of mine's father, same guy. I mean, he lived there as long as as I can remember all the way back. I think he built the house a couple years before my parents built theirs. Same people on the same street. So do I have something like that lined up? Well, then what's that going to look like? How, there's a lot that goes into this stuff. And especially with like a farm, I've heard of relatives getting a phone call. Hey, Grandpa Joe died, and guess what? You're the only one.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
This is going up, and someone's looking at inheritance, but they forget the bigger picture of everything else is going to go with that and how much of that's going to go to taxes. Like what all.
Right. And if you accidentally give some money to taxes that wasn't supposed to go to taxes, they're not going to tell you.
Yeah, no, they're not going to give it.
Uncle Sam does not care. Like
No.
if you make an error, they're going to say, "Ooh, dang, they paid us too much," and then wipe it off the table.
Yep.
And that's like, if you don't know it and you file your taxes at H&R Block, which nothing against them, but they don't deal with farms very often.
No.
If you don't have the right people or the right network in place, man, you can really get beat up on taxes or anything. Sales price, we see a lot of the time, like either a competitor has an investor or a competitor has, money sitting in the bank, and they go to a farm or a landowner and they're like, hey, listen, instead of just taking this thing to market, how about I just pay you this right now? And basically they buy it and they'll sell it again themselves at market value, or that investor comes, they buy it, they talk the landowner into giving them commission, and then that investor has obviously margin that they've set forth, and they get paid another commission on it, so they're paid twice.
Yeah.
That's something that, man, nothing against anybody else, but that grinds my gears. Like, especially when some of these farms, they went through 2 world wars and a Great Depression, not giving them equal value for the farm just burns me up.
It's a business, yes,
Right.
but it is taking advantage of someone's ignorance on not knowing what they have.
Right.
I am Julie Forster with Crafty Midwestern Mommy, your local boutique embroidery and fabric store. I sell fabric as well as sewing notions and also teach classes. And then we also, on the other side of our business, do machine embroidery, custom apparel for local businesses, and just personalized gifts. Again, the store's name is Crafty Midwestern Mommy, and that's how you can find us on all social media platforms as well as our website.
Well, and I would think too, with selling a farm, like, and you correct me here if I'm wrong, but like what the land has on it too would attribute to the property value.
Absolutely.
Hey, you've got 2 lakes, or hey, that body of water out there is actually this wide, so it's actually this.
Right.
It's not a pond, or I don't know all the measurements, whatever.
Spring
But
fed.
there's going to be different things that the average, like if someone called me tomorrow and said, hey, do you have some family member you didn't know about and you inherited this? I wouldn't have the first clue.
Right.
I don't know anything about that. I don't hunt. I wouldn't know anything about it. It would be a chunk of land. If someone goes, hey, give you $100,000 for it. Now, being business savvy, I'd be like, well, that was too easy.
Yeah.
Let me check into this. But I could see how people would, an investor comes in and says, I'm going to give you $200,000 today. We'll take all this headache. You just don't worry your little head.
Right.
And someone would do it in a heartbeat and then find out it was a, $500,000-$600,000 property.
Yep.
Is it unethical? Well, it depends on how they're doing it, but it sucks.
Right. And that's, like I said, not knocking anybody, but our mission statement is to save people from that.
Yeah.
Exact. Because we do auctions as well.
Yeah.
And man, when an old lady hugs you crying and saying, thank you so much, you've changed the whole direction of my family. And, we just wish you would have got here 6 months earlier because we sold off, 100 acres already, but thank you so much. And they're crying, tears of joy. Oh my gosh. That's the whole reason I do this.
And you feel better about it because in any business, there's gonna be someone that's not ethical.
Right.
So I painted a house for a little old lady in Troy. She's crazy. That's all I could say.
Those people are out there, turns out.
We painted it. She swears that the color is too yellow. I explained to her she has yellow light bulbs in the house. It looks more yellow. I showed her, she's like, well, this other room that was painted, it's whiter. I'm like, that's a white LED bulb because it's a creamy color anyways. I was like, I'll go buy you new light bulbs. I said, I'll rub to Hecklers. I'll get you all new light bulbs. I'll come back, put them in. We'll see how you think about it. She's like, it just doesn't match the swatch. I had the swatch. It was a cling, and I had it stuck to the wall. When we walked around the house and we came back in, I couldn't find it because it was such a perfect match.
Oh my God.
But she was upset because I bought the paint from a different supplier. I said, yeah, but they match the color. I didn't know you were so hung up on this brand or I would have got it. But we use Sherwin-Williams most of the time. I picked your paint up on Sunday. I got Sherwin. So we got caught up. I looked at it. I told Casey, I was like, I'll go buy 2 gallons, 3 gallons of Ben Moore. We'll go back and recut, roll the house, whatever, probably 5 gallons. I said, just make her happy. She's local.
Right.
When we called her, it was just like 3 days later, because I told her, I said, I need to look everything over. I probably got to talk to a paint rep. I said, I'm seeing a dead match. I want to run this past some other people because I really don't know what to tell you. It doesn't look different to me. So Casey, I was like, just call her. We'll do it. I'll sleep better.
Right.
And she was like, well, I have a painter coming tomorrow to repaint it. I'm like, who was so unethical to walk in that house? And granted, she may have not had the swatch up.
Right.
But that wouldn't, if someone called me, I looked at a house yesterday. They're mad at the builder. They don't like the paint job. And I told them, I said, it's a good paint job.
Right.
This looks good. I was like, it's a cheap product.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I don't like the color, but you picked it. I was
Right.
like, but it's a solid paint job.
Yep.
I'll give you a bid, but I don't think it needs repainted. I get it. You don't like the color. I understand if you wanted color change it. I was like, but whoever did the job before, I wouldn't knock them.
Right.
She was like, oh, the ceiling lines look terrible. I'm like, I don't see what you're seeing.
Right.
And even the husband elbowed me. He's like, I don't either.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. As long as we're on the same page. But there's a level of ethics there. And I could see that with the land and the stuff like that, you get people, like I said, an elderly lady, husband passes away. She doesn't know. She's just lived on the farm her whole life. Or
Right.
whatnot, that having someone to step in that's ethical and going to walk them down that road and really give them good advice on it. It's not just going to run them through for the commission and move on is priceless. And it's something we're losing this day and age.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's something with my businesses. I always am looking at how can we make things a little more personal as we grow big? Like how can I still maintain that small business mindset and that small business? I know all my customers. At one point, the office and everything had grown so much, I'd run into people like, you painted my house. I had no clue who they were. There's a number on an invoice sheet.
Yep.
And that bothered me. So
Right.
I downsized a little bit. I didn't like that. And that's terrible. Like as a business standpoint, people are like, well, you're still making money on it. It's like, yeah, but that was really weird to me
Right.
to not. So I'm always
But
looking
you're
at.
not Walmart.
Yeah.
you
And
know.
I'm always looking at ways to do that with the business. How can you scale and grow your business bigger, but still maintain that personalization and working with the customers in that aspect? And it sounds like High Point's really kind of figured that out with you guys.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's great.
We're a very mid-sized. So we're
I
in
would say 40 people is bigger mid-size, but I
Well-
get what you mean.
well,
Under
we're-
500 is a small business.
But and we're over 5 states.
yeah.
That's over 5 states.
yeah,
I mean,
that's
there's
great.
we actually only have 4 agents across the state of Missouri.
Yeah.
Now Iowa, it gets a little bit. Iowa's a
There's a lot
different
of
game.
farms in Iowa.
Yeah, there's a lot of farms in Iowa.
I've been to Iowa a bunch, and yeah, as soon as you hit the border, it's a farm. It's like, oh wow, okay.
And another thing that I really like about our brand and our company is, so my broker, I love him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like a brother to me, and he's done a ton for me and my family. But like he doesn't hire anybody, and this isn't about me. This
Yeah.
is just everybody. So we do we all meet in Iowa once a year, and we go over, we train, we do new systems, procedures, and then we go over several topics. We're constantly trying to get better. I mean, it's become a frat. I mean,
Yeah.
we all hang out there for a day or two and really get to know each other. And so like one of our guys, we only have one agent in the state of Colorado. When we don't border Colorado at all, but we have one
Yeah.
agent, and it's because he's the right guy.
Yeah.
Like you can sit in a truck with Kyle and drive for 3 hours in any direction. And granted, here's a little different. We've got 3,500 landowners per county on average. There, in a 3-hour drive, there might only be 3,500. I mean,
Really?
but he knows the history of every ranch. He knows the landowners.
Yeah.
He knows, where they came from and why they bought the land. And so that type of person, it's hard to find those people.
Yes.
And especially in this day and age where it's like so easy to connect with people, like
Yep.
good people get scooped up like that.
Well, and it's a dying breed too, because so many people are focused on Instagram Reels, TikToks, all this other stuff, instead of just being really good at what they do.
right.
And it's like, well, when I talk to people about, building a painting company or building martial arts, whatever it is, I'll tell them you got to tell people about your business. You don't got to tell them how good you are. I'm already making the assumption you're great.
Right.
Like if you're going to go this far to build it up, there's so many people though that they haven't spent the time to acquire those skills, but
Mhm.
they did something big on social media that blew their name up and got them out there. It's really wild when you find someone, and I've always found this. I tell my friend Anna cuts my hair, and I always tell her thing I've always thought so cool about her is she's so particular and so good at what she does.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch the way she studies. Like I've watched her cut other people's hair, and she's a true artist and a true master of her profession.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an impressive thing in these days because so many people flip flop what they're doing and they never take the time to learn it. So like that guy, that's years and years and years of learning
Yes.
that. That's not something he picked up yesterday.
Right.
That's a lifetime full of knowledge to be able to do that. And that's why I guarantee you pay good to use him. And that's something this day and age that people don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people be like, well, oh, you came in and bid my house to paint it. The guy down the street bid it half that. Cool. He's been painting for a year, been painting 20 years.
Yep.
There's a difference. You know, I've been teaching martial arts, been in martial arts 31 years now. My rate should be more than someone that started their school last week.
Mm-hmm.
Because I value knowledge.
Right.
You know, if I hire somebody to do something that's doing it for 50 years,
Mm-hmm.
I know they're going to be great at it.
Yep.
I expect that to be more.
Yep.
That's not always how our society works these days, though.
Right. And it's the same in the land space. I mean, I charge quite a bit more than some of my competitors, but there was a sale not that long ago that the guy, I mean, he bought this ground for half of what I just sold it for, and he literally owned it for 20 days. And so that to me shows, yes, they might be just a fraction of my cost, but if you pay a little bit more and you double your money, I'm paying for myself.
Exactly. And that's the way I've always looked at it. And I'll be honest, as anyone new getting into business or starting out, that is a hard one to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is what my value is. I'm worth this much. Why am I? Well, because I bring this, this, and this, and this to the table.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with building business for painters right now, I've been consuming a lot of content,
Mm-hmm.
checking out a lot of stuff, TikToks, Reels, all this, and what everybody's doing. And I finally realized the other day I needed to make my content me. Put up stuff like, so I made 11 videos this morning, and it was all stories of different things I ran into on the job site. Because I realized that a lot of these coaches are out there teaching, well, I'm gonna show you the software that's gonna get you all these leads, or I'm gonna show you this. But none of them are actually teaching you how to deal with running the business.
Right.
How to deal with when 6 employees all call in on a Friday because they got together and decided they wanted to go out that weekend, so no one showed up. What are you going to do? Fire them all? You don't have anybody. Like,
Right.
What do you do when you show up to a house? And I literally showed up to do a bid one time, and the lady's handicapped husband was home. He was mentally handicapped. He had been had brain damage. I couldn't understand him. And he's walking around, and I got her on speaker. I got him talking to me because he thinks I get it. I have no clue what I'm walking into. She's flustered because she wanted him to walk me through the bid. You know, what do you do on that? I've opened the door for people before, and the husband come to the door. What the hell are you doing here? I'm here for a bid. Calls his wife. They're yelling at each other in the kitchen because he didn't know she was getting a bid that day. She forgot to tell him. No one's teaching that stuff. So
Right.
I am.
Yep.
And so I sat down and started creating stuff based on those experiences. I've been watching all stuff going, what can I do that's different? I'm like, oh, I could talk about all the things that I've seen, and I can talk also about how hard it is. Everybody's out there preaching, hire a coach. It's just going to be so easy. Well, that's not the truth.
No.
It's not. You're still going to struggle. It's just going to fast track how you get places because you're going to have someone to bounce that off of. But that's not the cheat button. You don't just hire them. It's like going to the gym and hiring a personal trainer. Just because you hire that trainer don't mean you get fit.
Right.
Still got to do the work.
Yep.
So again, that's what it is. You know your value. You know that you're going to make this deal based on your knowledge. So yeah, it is more.
Right.
And that's worth it.
Yep.
And our society these days does not value that like it did 30 years ago.
Right.
I find, if someone helps me in martial arts or whatever, or business, I value that knowledge so much. And I think it's probably from the fact I teach martial arts. That's my knowledge
Mm-hmm.
that I've learned from all these people over the years. And I like to make sure I give credit where credit's due.
Right.
But I value knowledge so much. Like if somebody goes, hey, if somebody like in martial arts space I'm working with needs something done, I'll trade them for a lesson. Well, here, you teach me those. Oh, especially if they got like 50 years experience. well, I can pay him. No. I would much rather you give me some lesson. I would much rather have that knowledge. I can make money other places, but you have knowledge.
Yep.
And it's so valued. And that's something with what you're doing to look into, because, I mean, like I said before, like how many people this is kind of dropped on them. They find out last minute, or, you know, grandpa passes away. Grandma all of a sudden has just maybe $10 million in property sitting there and has no clue. I mean,
Right.
I've seen that happen to people before, where they basically found out they were millionaires that night.
Right.
And that's very simple to do with a lot of land.
Yep. And it doesn't, honestly, in this day and age, it doesn't take much land to do that.
No. And Grandpa Earl might have bought it 80 years ago for a Ford truck or something and some boats.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
where it's all paid for. You're going, huh?
Right. And things are changing so much, and just there's a lot of new types of buyers, and like one thing that I hear a lot is, like, you know, people always say, you know, don't sell my land to somebody in the city or to China.
Sell it to China.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, and I'll say this right now, we've never sold anything to China, and we never will.
I was totally gonna bring that up earlier. I was gonna be like, for China. Yeah.
But
because that's the thing. If you watch some of the news channels, you know, they're buying everything.
Yeah, yeah. Which I mean, they are buying some, and there's some people that'll work with them. But you know, if we've ever sold anything to them, we don't know about it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's in so many shell corporations that are LLCs. But one thing I am seeing a lot right now is, like, farmers actually want an investor to buy their ground, because they've been buying for the last 3 or 4 years. Interest rates have been low, and they're just stretched way too thin.
Yeah.
And now they're willing to let go of this ground for, you know, a little bit less than maybe what market value is, as long as they can lease it back for 5 years or 10 years.
Yep. And then they can finish working the ground.
Yep. Yeah. Which is a great deal for both parties. But, you know, there's only so much money to go around. But no, things are still, a lot of people say, like, you know, man, the market's just getting rougher and rougher, and the interest rates are killing it. That is not what I am seeing. And
everybody I talk to, it's in any type of realty space, says the same thing. They're all busy. You know, I feel like sometimes some of that stuff's put out to trick us. I will say, in like my businesses, I have noticed a decrease in the amount.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I haven't lost any students, but I don't have students coming in buying $400 worth of hoodies. At one point, we were selling $6,000 of merch a month, to where I couldn't even keep it in stock. That's not happening anymore.
Right.
Painting, I'm not going in. Like, I would literally go bid a house. They'd be like, hey, you know what? My sister lives down the street. I think I'm gonna have her house done too. It's like, you're gonna pay me $10,000 to go paint your sister.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's walk down there. I haven't had any of that. People are like, let's just do the main area, maybe touch up the baseboards. I don't want to repaint the whole house. Like, it's changing, but I don't see it all falling on its face. Like, I still paint for realtors. I still have clients call me all the time. Hey, we're moving into this house. Can we get a bid? Because we'll bid it. If they're going to be moving in and they're not closing until a certain date, I'll bid it off photos just to help them with their timeline.
I'm seeing a lot of like not on market stuff. Inventory is growing right now. But like, it's really not, like, the market hasn't slowed up. It's just everything just went off market.
Yeah.
So everything that's on the market right now, or that's been sitting for a long period of time, it's usually, you know, either overpriced or there's something wrong with it, which, you know, and I kind of hate to say that, but that's kind of where we're at, because even I have had some stuff that sat, but it was, you know, you can only, you know, express your opinion so many times, and it's like, you know, listen, if you don't want to sell it for anything less than that, that's fine. That's just where we're at.
You can only do so much.
Yeah, I can't just wave a wand and make somebody overpay for it either. So but like off market, I mean, stuff's flying off shelves. I've taken more stuff off market in the last 6 months than I have the rest of the time I've been doing this. So to go back to your point, as far as like, you know, being a professional and growing in your business, and, you know, part of it is knowledge that is, you know, you can only attain that knowledge one way, failing forward. And another thing is, like, the people who aren't able to do it right now, man, Julie and I had this conversation the other day. It's so, I won't say easy, but it's easier than it's ever been to be successful, as long as you're a personal person.
Yes.
And you're willing to do a good job. If you don't do a good job, nobody will use you. If
and it's easier for them to tell everybody that ever has been before.
Yep.
Andy Frischella talks about that all the time. We're in a day and age where it's easier for everybody to tell every one of their friends they love you And it's very easy for them to tell everyone they hate you.
Yep. And it's, I mean, amplified by the internet easily.
It is. And sometimes people get a little shook by it. But again, it comes down to that personal connection too. Like I said with my videos, that's what I'm trying to do is make content that is personal to me and that shows, like I talk about, I had a customer freak out over a color. We went in, repainted the house.
Yep.
Basically, she picked the colors, sent over to the office. She said, I want to I think she said Benjamin Moore, and then she had this color. Benjamin Moore didn't make that color.
Oh no.
If you just look that color up, there's like 8 other companies that make it. She swore it was Benjamin Moore, so they finally broke it down and was like, listen, we can't. And my sales rep at the time was a Sherwin-Williams, ex-Sherwin-Williams manager. She knows her stuff. They couldn't find it. So when I went to the house, lady was freaking out because we had the whole place painted. She hated the color that she had picked as her second color.
Right.
She's like, well, if you guys would just paint it the color I wanted in the first place. That was her rationalization how it was our fault. So I said, well, let me see your phone. Show me a color. When she pulled it up, it was a Walmart color. It was a Walmart color that was made by, so when she was on the website and it was under Walmart or something, but if you clicked on the color, it took you to like the Kills website, and that was who produced the color. I was able to figure it out because I could see what she had on her phone.
Yep.
So I said, we're going to paint it the other color for you. No problem. I'm going to get the paint. I called the store. I said, Paige, I need the paint right now. Told the guys, wash stuff up, start with this color.
Yep.
Still didn't get paid on the job. She come up with another reason at the end. There was something going on between her and her husband. It got, like, she sent us a video in like the middle of the night. She had the face and the phone down at the baseboards, and she was scratching at her baseboards because she said they were peeling. 30 days to cure. It was in our contract, everything, but she was scratching at it with a nail, peeling the paint off. But she was down screaming in the phone, F you, Casey, you see this? And I mean, it was wild. Like, she was unhinged.
Gosh.
So I told that story. I'm like, and this is what you have to do. Sometimes you just have to eat it.
Right.
Because you know what? At the end of the day, I know I did everything to make it right. And guess what? I couldn't make it right. I lost my tail on it. It was a $12,000 job. Life moves on.
Right.
Yes, those do happen. We have at least 1 or 2 a year to where somebody pulls something on it, but that's part of growing and scaling and dealing with people.
Right.
But it's so easy this day and age for them to blast you that some people are a little power hungry with it.
Yep.
So you've got to make sure that you build your reputation so strong that when people hear that, they're like, not that guy.
Yeah.
I had someone say that to me recently about a guy I used to work for that I don't like. We don't get along.
Right.
And they made a comment about him and drug abuse. I said, nah.
Yeah.
And they said, what? I said, he's not that type. I said, he drinks. He said he wouldn't touch any of that.
Right.
Well, I've heard. I'm like, you heard wrong. I was like, I knew the guy for 20 years. Even though we don't get along now, that's not him.
Yep.
But I know that about him strong enough to say that. And when I've had people, message me over stuff that think their names or whatever, and they're like, I'll ruin you. I'm like, go for it.
Yeah.
I've made sure that I've built a strong relationship with all my customers, with the people at the school, even people that maybe quit or didn't use me on a job. I've had them refer me down the road because we were a good company and I was a good person. And you have to remember that part of it. Like you said, it's really easy to be successful these days, but you have to have that good person part of it too. And you have to have good people surrounding you.
Right. I could not agree with anymore.
Yeah.
The whole, you are who you surround yourself with. That has been, because at what age did you start, branching off and doing the entrepreneur stuff, if you don't mind me asking?
Honestly, my first entrepreneurial endeavor was probably 6th grade. I would buy bikes at the Wentzville flea market, and you used to be able to go to Western Auto and buy GT decals, and I would buy a bike that was supposedly a GT, probably were Huffies, I don't know.
Right.
Paint it, sand it, prime it, paint it, clean it all up, polish the spokes, put it together, and then throw GT decals on it, and then I'd ride it till somebody wanted to buy it.
Nice.
Then I started selling gum. I talk about that in my book. My dad bought me a pack of gum, Bazooka bubble gum, which is gross bubble gum.
Right.
But I got to school. Well, in middle school, we could chew gum. And so everybody bought a piece of gum from me.
Right.
I took that money. It was like, I don't know, I want to say 30 pieces in a pack, and a pack was 25 cents. I sold each piece for 25 cents. Nice. So I made my money back on one piece. I always have kind of been entrepreneurial. And my dad always pushed me not to have a regular job. He's like, work for yourself. And I always kind of, society teaches us you got to have a job.
Yep.
So it took a long time before I finally went out and did it. And then I went through so many struggles with the academy, building it up. We grow, we drop, we grow, we drop. And looking back, the best thing I would have been able to do is hire a coach to help me, but I didn't know enough about it.
Right.
Didn't even really know that genre was there.
Right.
To do it. I didn't have the money to do it anyways.
Right.
But there were so many ups and downs I've learned from that when I finally did the painting company, I had a much better idea of what I want to do. And I was already a painter. I worked as a painter, as a journeyman painter in a union. I knew from the mistakes I'd made with that what I wanted to do. And then that business just taught me more to where it's you know, putting in the repetitions. You get the losses, you get the wins, and you build on these until it's not that you really are bulletproof, but you just build the confidence to do these other things.
Yep.
And it's stressful. It's hard.
Right.
You know, the last couple nights we've been finalizing everything with my book. We've been finalizing everything with the coaching business. I'm building out this full speaking thing. So I've got multiple office managers calling me in the mornings. It's overwhelming. Like by the time I sit down and catch up on my to-do list, I have another to-do list and it sucks.
Yep.
But it's part of the building process.
Right.
Some people, I think it's just, I think some people go, okay, well, this guy over here, he can do that, but I can't. Well, that's not really true. Anybody can. It's just, are you going to work for it?
Well, there's that famous quote, you know, whether you say you can or whether you say you can't, either way, you're right.
You're right. Yep.
You know?
And that's really, really true. And I tell people that if you sit there and tell yourself you can't, I'm not going to win today. Like when we have kids go to tournaments, they'll be like, I'm not going to do good. You're right. You're not, because you just said it. You're not. You know, if you go walk in there with, I'm going to win everything today. And it's something that it actually took me having my own kids to realize it. But Ben and Jocelyn do so many competitions. Everywhere we go, every tournament we go to, they don't always win every division, but they win. Ben, I think, has one tournament where it was just a big one. He did not walk away with an actual trophy. He had a 5th place medal, which was more of a give me trophy.
Yeah.
And he knew that. We didn't dog on him for it, but he knew that one was like, he was like,
Yeah.
He's like, I never run today. But we'd also bumped him up into a black belt. He wasn't even a black belt yet. And I bumped him up to a AA division, which was really hard. And I just did it because he kept going to tournaments, not having anyone to compete against. I was like, well, you're not learning anything by just getting a trophy.
Yep. We don't grow without resistance.
Yes, but every time something comes up, like if there's a competition at school for something, Ben's not gonna look at me and go, oh no, I probably wouldn't win. He's arguing with his sister over who's get first and second. Like that mindset's not there. Whereas I work with so many students that come in my school and so many adults. That's what makes me upset sometimes, is the amount of adults that have never won anything.
Right.
Haven't done good at anything, to where they immediately project loss. Kids that immediately, because of the way the dialogue goes in their house, immediately project losing. They're well, I'm not going to, why I do a tournament, I'd never win. I don't really care what I tell Ben and Jocelyn, like, hey, we're going to go do this. Or like, yeah, like there's no, I don't know, I can't do that, or I'm not going to do good at it. They might say I'm nervous. Like they spoke at my event last week. I got them on stage. They did a little minute speech. They were nervous to do it, but they didn't say, Dad, I'm going to mess this up. They were just nervous to do it.
Right.
But it's a mindset thing. And I didn't realize the power of that, because I always told people I just must be stupid, because they're like, well, how do you just have the courage to do all this different stuff? I was like, I'm just dumb.
Right.
I just go do it. I get really bored. ADHD is actually a wonderful thing sometimes. But it's that mindset, you know.
Right.
How old are you?
I'm 26.
26, doing what you do. Obviously, you have a good mindset with that stuff, because that's not something every 26-year-old's not sitting here breaking down how to do stuff on land and helping a little old lady. I opened my Taekwondo school at 28. I wanted to open way before that. My instructor always told me no. He's like, you don't look old enough.
Right.
And I thought that was bullshit. I was like, he's just keeping me here to run his gym. And after I opened it, people were like, you're going to teach my kid? Like, it really did.
Come over here.
it really did, though. It really did, because I looked so young.
Right.
It did hurt me. It did, because we actually told everyone in the beginning my dad owned it.
Right.
And he didn't own any of it, but I would tell people that because it would at least make them feel better.
Right.
If they were 40, stuck in a job they hated, and here's this young kid teaching martial arts, and his wife wants him to go up there to learn karate, I watch a lot of dudes have an issue with it. So we lied. I was like, oh, yeah, Dad owns it. That's the other thing. When he passes away, everybody in the family thinks he owns my businesses. And he does not. They all think they're going to get rich.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, there's no rich there.
Right.
But we would lie to people, because it did affect people's judgment. And I always thought, like I said, it was BS until I went out on my own. I was like, oh, he was really onto something. I kind of was like, might have wanted to wait a couple more years, because it's now I'm in a different place, being in my 40s with the school. It's I remember sitting at the desk trying to convince people to sign up my gym, adults.
Right.
They didn't want to. They were older than me. What am I going to teach them?
Right.
Now I'm in my 40s now. It's totally different dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
If I say, oh no, you can do this kick, people just trust it. One, it's my achievements. It's on social media. The world's different. When I started the school, it was 2009.
Mm-hmm.
January 1st, 2009 is when I opened the doors. That's my first Facebook post ever.
Holy
Like,
cow.
it's
And
different world.
getting people to sign up at that time for anything was hard.
Yeah, my dumb ass, I didn't know anything about the economy. I didn't know nothing. I was told, yeah, it's really cheap to lease a space. You should open a school right now. And I did. I got my
Probably was.
LLC in November 2008 and opened the doors in January 1st, and then had the biggest struggle I've ever. I actually built the school up pretty fast considering the time.
Right.
I just didn't have the staff to support it.
Mm-hmm.
I built it up bigger than what I could handle, and so then we went up really high, and then we dropped off, and then leveled off for a while because I kept hammering the marketing hard and the stuff I did by going out and working. At one point, I taught 1,000 kids a week in local schools and preschools for free to promote my school.
Right.
I just went around, offered to come and do Taekwondo for free, and people open arms. I would be in Lincoln County, Warren County, and St. Charles County in all the same weeks. Blew the school up, but I didn't have the staff and the procedures in place to support it.
Yep.
So I laid off that stuff for a while because I knew what I had to do. But you can't just hire random people off the street at a martial arts school. I can't just put an ad up. I almost have to build them from the inside or have students come up that want to do it.
Face-to-face thing.
It was really hard to do. Now I've learned some things where I could bring other people in if I wanted to. There's ways to do it. Back then I didn't know.
Right.
My instructor had other instructors because we stayed there and learned and trained. Well, it takes a long time. Like Riley teaches a lot of classes for me now. She's a godsend, especially over the summer when she's here from college. Been with me 11 years. That's a long time to develop an employee. Like that's
no kidding.
That's hard. She's great. She can teach everything. She's been with me 11 years. That you can't just hire that off the street.
No.
She's been with me since she was a little kid. She stayed, so now she works there.
That's awesome.
It's great. You can't do that with everything.
Right.
You know, and obviously, so what started you in kind of wanting to do? Because I mean, what you do, you know, is very entrepreneurial.
Right. Right. So I've been working since I was 12. I mean, we've always had either so some family owned a huge sheep farm here in Lincoln County. I worked there. I worked at Weiss Limousine Cattle. If you name a job, I've probably had it.
Good.
And so right after I got out of high school, I made a power washing business and I loved it.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. I didn't have a truck. I literally strapped a ladder through the windows of my car. I mean, it was, you know.
Yeah, you look back on that stuff
Yeah.
now, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, I can't believe I was driving down the road.
Yeah.
But
I look back at stuff I did with the painting company before before it was officially with all the red and everything, and I'm like, oh my God, why did people hire me? Like
Right.
because I won't make fun of people. If I see someone doing something janky, I'm like, I'm gonna give them the benefit out their start now because I did that stuff too.
But it's like, you know, that just goes to prove if there's a will, there's a way.
Yep.
I literally knocked on doors of Montgomery City and just like if I saw there was a bunch of scum on the outside of somebody's house, I was knocking on the door.
Yeah.
And then we'd walk around. I didn't even know how to bid a job. Me and one of my best friends at the time, we'd walk around and we're like, he'd look at me and say, probably around 300, and he'd look at me and I'd be like, 350, you know.
Yeah.
And it worked.
But that's how a lot of people start.
Right.
You don't have to have the game plan.
Yeah. Yep. And so we did that, and we were actually it's funny because I don't ever regret things, but I am curious to see how things would have worked out if I would have stuck with that pathway because I had already signed up to go to Missouri Welding Institute, and I had a deadline. You know, I was doing that for the summer.
Yeah.
And I had started a coalition or a referral program basically. And so my uncle did siding and gutters and stuff like that. And so I would get a small commission off every job that I referred out.
Oh yeah.
So I literally just called contractors, and every time we got done power washing a job, if I saw a gutter barely hanging on, I'd be like, hey, you know, if you need that fixed, I have a guy, and then I'd hook him up, and then I'd get paid. But I kept being told by all my friends that were out on the road, like, hey man, we're making $2,500 to $3,000 a week. Like this is the life, and you travel the United States. I was like, that's what I want to do. So I left it behind. I left all my stuff, everything with my buddy, built it up all summer. We were doing great. I should have stuck with it. But then I traveled on the road. I went to Texas and Arizona and Wyoming and built plants all around the United States. I got to see a nuclear reactor when I was 19.
Oh, that's cool.
It was.
See, I look at things the way you do. I don't regret it, but what if? Like,
Right.
there's a lot of things in life that were hard, a lot of mistakes I made with my businesses, but it taught me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So to say, oh, I would have done it differently, no, but I always wonder what if I would have done this, or what if, and that's why I find it like if I've got an instructor or I meet somebody and we have a conversation, I'm like, ooh, this would be a good book. I try to give them a book.
Yeah.
Here's a great personal development book. This would fit you. You know, this is something. I've had a lot of people message me. They're like, wow, that you were right. That was right.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe it'll be that one thing. I was given How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
That's
I didn't read it. I didn't read it for like 8 years. Vern gave it to me, and when I opened the school, I was so bored and I had nothing to do. I'm like, well, Vern told me to read this book, and then I read it, and I was like, oh, why did I never threw it away.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like I bought another one. I had the one he gave me,
Right.
but why didn't I read it sooner?
Right.
And so I try to do that with people when I see them, because what if you'd had a mentor that would have told you, like, there's a lot of stuff right now. Some friends of mine are building up. They've been on the podcast a couple weeks ago, big power washing company.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of coaching programs, there's some stuff that show you how to make some serious money and really successful at that.
Yep.
You were already doing some of that, because that's some of the stuff they're doing.
Yep.
What if somebody that was really big into that stuff would have stopped you and been like, hey,
Right.
that's really cool. Do this and this, man, and let me know how that works for you. Like, I want to be that guy. Like, when I help a painter, I want to tell him, hey, you've got the hustle.
Right.
Now here's what you've got to do next.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, guys, whatever, oh, my painting business fell through, and then I find out, well, they don't like to get up before 9 a.m. and they don't do, and it's like, yeah, nothing you do in life's ever going to work, bud, because you don't work.
Right.
Like, you have to put the hard work in.
Right.
But yeah, that's awesome. And that was something, like, I was always drawn to entrepreneurial stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but I was dead set on having my dojo, and I was dead set on only having it.
Right.
And then I went back to work painting because of the Affordable Care Act.
Mm-hmm.
Ran my health insurance through the roof just having the dojo.
Right.
So I went back in the union. I called my old boss. He's like, hell yeah, I'll take you back.
Nice.
Had union insurance. I went back, and after a couple years, I told Casey, we had a bunch of money saved up for a house. I said, I think I want to do a painting business.
Right.
I was like, because I had some people working for me already. I was to the point that I was turning down work
Mm-hmm.
to go paint for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, we don't need this safety net. We can do this.
Right.
The big scary part was when I talked her into leaving her job.
Ooh.
So then we were both self-employed, and then I had to, you know, then in my brain, the business was all on me to take care of all of us.
Right.
And then when I started adding employees.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, now I got to do good so they do good.
Right.
Like,
Right.
because now their family's livelihood is on me, because if I screw this up, they lose their job. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's the hard part.
Yeah.
So where do you plan to take this with, you know, the land company and you know, your job, and what's your goal? And
So right now, we're mostly just scaling. I mean, I was able to go full time last year.
Nice.
So I
Awesome.
it was super stressful. I went from, you know, getting back to that entrepreneurial thing. I didn't realize that I was just not meant to have like a regular W-2 job.
yeah,
But I worked for years. I mean, 4 or 5 years, and it's just like every day you're going to work, you're like, oh, this sucks. And so once I got into this, I was like, work doesn't suck anymore,
Yeah.
you know? And I actually love doing my job.
Yep.
Every day,
and that's important.
whenever I wake up, it's just like, cool, I get to do this.
Yes.
You know, I don't have to do this. I get to do this.
Yeah.
And so it was a little bit scary whenever I left that W-2 job, because there goes the safety net.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, right now I'm just planning on, you know, scaling, helping as many people as possible. We're bringing a lot of high end stuff to the market, as far as like the videos and stuff that, I mean, our brand is one of the fastest growing in the Midwest. So we're actually reaching 60 to 80,000 people per video right now.
Wow, that's
And
awesome.
It's our website's getting over 20,000 views a week. I mean, it's really it's been taken off, and we've got a great staff in the office. So we have a marketing manager, we have a graphic designer, we have a videographer, and so all these, like, a lot of the stuff that we're able to do, we're able to put out better quality.
Yep.
and we're able to keep it in house, so we keep costs down.
Yep. That's a big
and
deal.
It's been huge for us. I mean, we can't thank the girls in the office and Sam, our videographer. He does a great job. But
that's a great job for him though, going all over the U.S.
He loves it.
I was that's got to be awesome.
He sits in an office in Waverly, Iowa.
Yeah.
So we just send everything to him, and he edits,
puts it. Yeah.
And talk about, like, everybody on this team loves their job.
That's important.
That's
building the culture. That's great. That's one of the things I aspire to with all my businesses. We just went to Summer Smash, and everything that Supplement Superstores and First Form has done with the Fruscellas, with Sal and Andy, like looking at the culture that they've built is so impressive that I love to do anything that involves them, because I like to study that. Man, they did this. Man, they did. Damn, that's awesome. Like, I strive to be that good, and I hope one day I am, because I always pick my flaws like all of us do. So where can people find you if they want to find you and check you out?
So I'm on Facebook. I'm on, we've got highpointlandcompany.com. If you go to YouTube, it's just High Point Land Company, and our videos will show up. But that's where you can reach me. It's Travis, I think on Facebook it's Travis Owen, High Point Land Specialist Mo, or something like that. So, and I'm constantly putting out content, just little tips and tricks, stuff that you can use to add value to your farm. Maybe you're not looking to sell right now, but maybe you're looking to sell in 20 years. Well, start documenting stuff right now. If you build a barn, or if you cut down some timber or clear out some brush, document everything. If you shoot a 160-inch deer, take photos, take measurements, keep it all in a book right there.
Wow.
Because when you're able to just hand it over and say, hey, on a map, we've killed deer here, here, and here. Here's the times, here's the winds. Like, it's turnkey. They're not walking into a new outfit. They're walking into a turnkey farm that they know that this year they can probably go in there and shoot 160, 180-inch deer. And
wow, that's crazy. I never would have thought that with fire. I know that's how it is with exotic cars. Like, you want to document everything, services, all that. Just makes it easier at the end, or with cars in general. But I never would have thought that about land.
Right. Even like a duck hunting property. So we have we actually have one under contract right now that they documented their kills with photos, and they gave us the winds and the blinds and this and that. Well, they did a good job, but there's some of these places like well, I don't want to name drop, but there's one down in St. Charles that I'm friends with the members, and they keep track of everything.
Yeah.
Species, date, time, wind.
It all adds up.
And you can actually read through 20 years of history, and you can be like, okay, so if the wind's blowing this way, we want to hunt this blind down here. And it's just,
I bet that adds a lot of value.
Completely different.
Wow, especially if it's an investor,
right,
that's wanting it to rent space out. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
Well, man, I appreciate you coming on today. We'll definitely have to do a follow-up episode on this.
Yeah.
And look forward to all your stuff that you've got coming out. Thank you guys for tuning in and following the podcast, supporting our sponsors. Make sure to check out all the guests, check out all the episodes, and follow them and support them like they have this podcast.